Well, we can have a white Christmas this Christmas. More than likely not if you're on the East Coast. It's been pretty balmy and hot and warm. But I just want to bring you out these latest, greatest news that climate change is now being, well, they call it global warming, which turned out to be not so much global warming in a lot of areas, but this year in the East Coast, in the beginning of the winter, it looks like it's just with the freaking weather for crying out loud. But NASA is now saying that burning fossil fuels cools the planet. The exact opposite of what they used to say. Oh my God! And I'm not going to put this out in too serious of a way, but I'll give you some good information about various things. But I am not going to put it out in a doom and gloom, very serious way like some people do, because I don't want people feeling down in the dumps about anything. Because there's a word out there called karma. Their stupidity tends to bite them in the ass, and I'm actually kind of expecting even this winter, 2015 to 2016. Which is going by most major meteorological predictions, whatever you want to call that. They're saying that the first half of the winter is going to be radically different from the second half on the East Coast. The West, you've already seen in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Denver, Colorado, they've already had record snows. And also in Siberia, which is nowhere near the United States, of course, but it does affect us later on. That's why the second half of the winter is going to be extremely cold. And more cold than it on average. In other words, it's going to make up for the lost time, this extremely warm December that we're having on the East Coast and all that stuff. It's actually going to make up for lost time because Siberia has record snows, and what that does is leave a major cold mass of air up in Siberia. And once the El Nino effect, which is keeping us warm on the East Coast, drops off, which it already is, it'll start, basically the Siberian Express is going to start kicking in sometime in January of 2016, which is right around the corner. So I figure mid-January, maybe a few weeks from now. So the second half of the winter is going to be more to make up for December. Now, but the thing is, their models are looking like BS, when they're talking about global warming, and like the last few winters have been pretty damn cold, globally. I mean, in Italy, they had, what did they have, like 10 feet, they had an all-time global record of snow. I know it changes. Sometimes, like last year in Buffalo, they had 8 feet of snow inside of a few days. In a couple of areas of Buffalo, actually. It wasn't all of Buffalo. But then this year, it's like just nothing, right? But it's going to catch up. It's actually supposed to catch up and make up for lost time. Now, so, they have to, now they're explaining it that global warming / global climate change, which is, the climate's always been changing. My point is these guys are freaking pulling theories out of their ass. You know what I mean? They're telling you that now it's due to the reason things are getting colder is because of man-made activity. Before they were saying man-made activity caused things to get warmer. And their theory was that CO2 actually caused the Earth to get warmer, whereas actually CO2 follows the warming of the Earth. The warming and the cooling of the Earth is actually due to the sun. I'm actually going to mention a couple things here because besides, and some of this is like ancient technology, really. What I would really like to see, though, to tell you the truth, because this is like, if there's like, say, a catastrophic snowmageddon blizzard or something on the East Coast, and the White House gets buried in 2.5, 3 feet of snow, and they can't go nowhere. I mean, you might say that's a national catastrophe or something, but on the bright side, I look at it like, well, I guess they already got their theory in place. It was caused by man-made activity. That's why it's getting colder. I'm like, this is getting ludicrous. That's all per Nassau. But it's almost like, say you're driving down the road and you're speeding and you have an unsafe car with bald tires on it and you get in an accident. And the police officer says, well, you're speeding and your car has bald tires on it and you got in an accident for those reasons. But it's almost like now the logic has been turned around whereby, it was an accident that wasn't really your fault. It was just something that happened say for instance, and your car was perfectly safe, and somebody dropped something in the middle of the road off a truck, and that happened, and the authorities are telling you that you got in the accident because your car was safe and you're driving the legal speed limit. I mean, that's what's going on here. It's like no matter what, they're trying to blame human activity on the freaking changes in the weather and the changes in the climate. This has been going on forever. Actually, the Farmer's Almanac, and I can tell you one thing, President Obama does have a clue as to what's going on. He's in on the game. Right now, he's talking to Santa, though, and Santa is giving him an earful because Santa's telling him, hey, man, it's just like more polar bears up here. It's colder than usual. I don't know what you're talking about. So, President Obama is actually getting an earful from Santa Claus right now because Santa Claus is telling him the deal of what's going on. Hey, man, I'm up here on the North Pole. You're sitting back there on a desk in your heated office, and you barely look outside the window once in a while, I'm the guy up here in the North Pole, and I'm telling you what's going on. So Santa's telling him, hey, there's a lot of snow up here, there's a lot of polar bears, and there's a lot of different wildlife out here, and they're all freezing their ass off, and they're hibernating. So that's what's going on, and he's been trying to help the polar bears out a lot. So, but, the actual technology on the, let me tell you this. There's one, well, I looked at probably 100 forecasts for this winter for various people. Most of them are saying it's divided up into two sections for the East Coast. The East Coast is going to be very, very warm the first half of the winter. The second half of the winter, it's going to be like probably even colder than somewhat like last year, ridiculously cold, lots of snow. And that's because the El Nino effect is going to break down by the second half of the winter, and the Siberian Express is going to kick in. They don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but they figure overall, that's the common ones out there, right? I looked at 100 of them because I said, let me just get a good broad base of what's going on. So NASA is now blaming that on human activity, which is ridiculous. I mean, they got to blame humans because I'll tell you right to what it really is. They're trying to tax you for it, and it's a communist principle basically what is going on behind the scenes. Any activity you do can be taxed as a global tax to the global government and given to bureaucrats that control your life because you do more activity so they can take a fee off of that right off the bat because the rationale behind that is that humans are causing the Earth to change its climate. Used to say warming, but that kind of got blown apart. Now they're saying humans are causing cooling. That's so they just make it up garbage to freaking fit their tax theory. That's really what the hell's going on. But let me tell you about this Farmer's Almanac and Old Farmer's Almanac. Actually, there's two of them. They use a formula going back to the 1700s. That's in a strong box. But the formula actually was that's a cat. He's freaking jumping around. That's actually why my mic goes out a lot of times. These guys are all over the place. The formula is actually predates the 1700s. It goes all the way back to the Middle Ages, and it goes off of sunspots. Sunspots are an indication of how much power the sun is putting out at a given time, and the sunspots are, when there's no sunspots or less sunspots, it usually means there's less warmth on the Earth overall, and they've been using that actually since forever. They've been using that since the Middle Ages. That's been known. See, that is one of the things that actually, the cats know better what's going on. I can tell you that right now. Here's the cat out here in the snow. The cat knows what's going on. The thing is, the people that are total into climatology, they have all these computer models. They have billions and billions and billions of dollars of resources and data that they can draw upon. They actually do not look at the sun as an influence. And then they say that the Farmer's Almanac and the Old Farmer's Almanac does not use any science. And I'm like saying, Oh, I don't know how you can freaking say that's not science. Do you think the heat from that's going to the Earth is not affected by the sun? All the heat coming to the Earth is the sun. You know, for crying out loud. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit coming from a volcano someplace, but basically all of it's coming from the sun. So you know, it's a little bit of cat common sense, and that's really where there's actually a foreboding prediction that we're going into a mini ice age. Um, we're having some indications of that already in the recent winters, but it's not really going to arrive actually next year and a year after. The year after, like we're going to have 16, 17 is going to be getting cooler than 15, 16. Now, I know this first half of the winter is very, very warm on the East Coast. On the West Coast, Salt Lake City, Denver, Colorado, they've actually broke snow records already. They're a little bit cooler than normal. But on but the signs are all there. I mean, the animals you'd probably be better off looking at what animals do as far as hibernating or whatever they're doing than actually look at some of the climatologists. But the climatologists generally, I actually had to look at what the major media people were saying. They actually have the East Coast winter split up into two halves. The second half is going to be more to make up for the first half. So it's going to be much colder than average, even overall, because by the time February kicks in, it's going to be extremely brutally cold in the East Coast, and with blizzards, the whole 9 yards, extra cold and all that. So, NASA has got to come up with more BS, and, the people that are pushing, see, all the government people, they're really behind, it is a conspiracy, because the only ones that are getting paid for this to push this kind of line about people are driving the climate versus the sun being the main factor driving the climate. It's part of their global tax and control angle. Not only tax, but limit all human activity, private property rights. They can control everything aspect of your life this way, So all the signs of what the powers that be are really doing are there. There's no doubt about it. So, what to do about this? I can tell you one thing, bundle up like old kitty over here for one. Number two, there's a thing called karma, and I swear I believe in this stuff in a lot of ways, because it's almost like people who they paint themselves in a corner with their logic. It's like, now the authorities that be are saying that burning fossil fuels cools the planet. That human activity by burning fossil fuels is actually cooling the planet, because they painted themselves in the corner with the global warming theory, because it's not going that way. And so they changed it to climate change. Now they're changing it to the man-made activity is cooling the climate. The more you drive your car, it's cooling the climate. Get the hell out of here, So they're making up shit as they go. So a lot of people are going to lose faith in what they say. And I think the bright side to this possible global mini ice age that's coming is that people will not accept the global tax, carbon taxes, and all the garbage that these people are spewing out. Because I think really what it takes is when people's backs are to the wall, that's when they fight back. Otherwise, they don't fight back. It's just like when I go back to the situation, something analogous to this, when I was talking about Barack Obama here, with his affordable health care. That deal hasn't really kicked, well, it has kicked in now, it's been passed, but people are not really fully seeing the financial repercussions of the quote-unquote Affordable Health Care Act, which was originally Hillary Care, when she was the co-president, quote-unquote, now to be maybe new president. She was the co-president under Bill Clinton. She was the first one to introduce it, because people that are poor, that are getting government assistance, and they can't afford health insurance, what's going to happen is they're going to have about $1,000 taken out of their other assistance to pay for not health insurance, but to pay for a fee because you don't have health insurance. That's what the Affordable Health Care Act is going to do. And, this guy's going to be out of office, basically, because it hasn't caught up to these people. The act has hit in place, but when people haven't paid into this system for not having health care insurance, they have not had it taken out of their other benefits yet. And when that finally catches up, old boy is going to be out of office. Which I have to mention, Barack Obama is half white and half black, for one. And number two, so, a lot of people say he's the first black president, but he's half white, half black. Number two, he's got zero black American lineage. He's got lineage back to Muslim slave traders and owners that brought American blacks to this country. So is he a sellout? Yes, he is a sellout. I got to put something serious on this video, okay? I did put some serious stuff on here, but if the White House gets encapsulated in ice, he's going to look kind of stupid saying, right now it's really warm though. It's probably about 65, 70 degrees up there. But it's probably it will change over, and within the next couple of years, what is expected actually in 2017, 2018 is when it's going to really kick in. And the bottom of the next mini ice age, the actual coldest, is going to be somewhere between 2035 and 2060. And that is assuming we don't go into the major ice age, which is already 500 years late. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to put out doom and gloom here because don't hold your breath on this garbage. But what I am really trying to tell you is that the powers that be are trying to freaking install feudalism, just like existed in the Middle Ages, only worse, because they'll have the electronic means to control people in every aspect of their lives, and they're doing it through taxing all human activity and controlling all human activity, and also controlling what you can do on your own private property. Actually, most people who say, for instance, they move out to the country, people move out to the country, usually they want to preserve nature. They're not people that want to destroy nature. So, maybe an environmental protection agency will probably, in the future, might say, you can't cut down a tree on your property or something or whatever. And a lot of times when you're doing that, as an individual, people move out to the country don't want to cut down all the trees. Obviously, they just want to kind of manage what's on their property so it's not a tangled mess of where it's a fire hazard or something. So, but I just got to tell you that, the more this comes around and they're boxing and painting themselves in the corner on, global warming and climate change and all this kind of good stuff, they're coming up with an excuse now that people burning fossil fuels cools the planet, according to NASA. So it's like, I hope people wake up. I hope people fight back on this garbage. And karma is a bitch. What is going to happen, I think, is that it's going to come to the point where maybe there's not going to be enough, I hate to say it, there might not be enough food to sustain the population due to, a lowering of sun activity, which is a natural cycle that happens every so many centuries. And, maybe people, if they realize that these people that are in Washington, D.C. and in the United Nations and in New York City, they don't have our best interests in hand, which we already figured out, I think, a long time ago. So anyway, hope they fight back. And we join the crusade with Santa Claus and his reindeer, and we spread the good word that it's getting cooler because the sun is actually lowering in activity now. It's just a normal cycle, and it's not due to us, and we need to prepare for global cooling, which is not due to us. So anyway, hope you got something out of this video, and just wanted to put out this information on how ludicrous the authorities are getting. They did a 180-degree turn with this fossil fuel garbage. Fossil fuels are causing global warming. No, they're not. They're causing global cooling. Well, God, it's getting ridiculous, believe me. That's per NASA. So, like I always said, a lot of these people that the more educated they are, they're not stupid. They're paid off freaking liars that convince the public of different things with their credentials. That's really what it goes on. They got all the education, they got all the credentials that convince the public that this person really knows what they're doing, but they're liars, and they're paid liars, and that's exactly what's going on with this global climate change caused by man theory, because they're just looking to control us like in the old days, in the Middle Ages, with feudalism, and control every aspect of our lives. But we got Santa Claus on our side and the three reindeer, and the only thing the reindeer do is let out a few poops every once in a while, which improves the soil and growing season. So that's a very ecological type of power that Santa Claus uses. And unfortunately, he has a secret, but we will figure this out one day and put the EPA out of business. That's for sure.